opens in the American Southwest desert, a landscape of flat-topped sandstone spires rising straight out of the earth, pale and vertical, beautiful in the way that genuinely dangerous things sometimes are. 5 climbers are working their way up one of these formations. The stone is smooth and the angle is brutal, and this is not a climb for anyone who hasn't spent years on vertical faces. 3 of the 5 are family. Royce Garrett, an experienced and highly decorated mountaineer who has been doing this most of his adult life, and his 2 children, his daughter Annie and his son Peter. The other 2 are less prepared. They wanted to be here, they've done some climbing, but the gap between their experience and what this rock demands is wider than any of them have acknowledged out loud. The 2 less experienced climbers are above Royce and his children on the rope line. Without warning, one of them loses his footing on the smooth sandstone face, and the subsequent panic causes both of them to come off the wall entirely. They fall simultaneously, and because all 5 are connected on a single rope running to one anchor piton near the top of the formation, every person below takes the shock of their combined weight. The jolt rips Royce, Annie, and Peter from the wall. In a moment, the entire group is hanging in open air over a serious drop, dangling on a rope that was never designed to hold 5 adults in free suspension. The rope is slipping at the anchor. The piton is pulling gradually out of the stone above them. Royce, who is hanging at the bottom, understands what is happening before anyone else does. He looks at the physics of the situation with the clarity of someone who has spent a lifetime reading rock faces, and the calculation it produces is devastating. The anchor cannot hold all 5 of them. The rope will not hold all 5 of them. The weight needs to decrease before the piton gives out completely, or everyone dies. He calls up to Annie and tells her to try to get a cam piece into a crack and create a secondary anchor. Anything to redistribute the load. Annie reaches and strains and comes close and cannot get the placement. Her hands are shaking, and the position she's hanging in doesn't give her the angle she needs. Royce is lowest on the rope. Above him is Peter, then Annie above Peter. He looks up at his son and says it simply, "Peter, get the knife. Cut my rope." Peter doesn't move. Annie is screaming at Peter not to do it. Peter is shaking. He knows that cutting the rope means his father falls. He knows exactly what the rock below them will do to a body that hits it from this height. His father keeps his eyes on Peter and says it again. And there is nothing frantic in the way he says it. He means it, and he has already made peace with it. The knife comes out. Peter cuts the rope. Royce falls. The anchor holds for the remaining 3. 3 years later, Peter Garrett works as a wildlife photographer for National Geographic, as far from vertical rock as he can position his career. The accident rewired everything. He was the one who held the knife. His sister Annie knows that and has never forgiven him for it. Not because there was any other rational option, but because grief doesn't run on rationality, and she needed someone to carry the blame, and he was holding the knife. They haven't spoken meaningfully in years. Peter is on a documentary assignment when news reaches him through the climbing community that a high-profile expedition is attempting K2, the second highest mountain on Earth, and by most measures, the most technically dangerous, with a death rate that puts Everest to shame. The news that shuts everything down for him is that Annie is on the team. She has become a celebrated mountaineer in the years since their father died, and she is attempting K2 as the culmination of everything she has built since. She is finishing Royce Garrett's dream. Peter travels to the K2 base camp in Pakistan to find her. When they see each other for the first time in years, there is no warmth in the immediate space between them. She looks at him like someone who has kept a wound clean by keeping a specific distance, and his presence collapses that distance without her permission. She doesn't ask him why he's there. He doesn't try to explain. He learns the details of the expedition. 5 climbers. The team leader is Tom McLaren, a highly experienced guide with a serious and methodical approach to risk assessment. The expedition is funded and driven by Elliot Vaughn, a wealthy and ambitious entrepreneur who has recently purchased a commercial airline and wants to stage a promotional event on the peak. The plan is this. Vaughn reaches the summit of K2 at a specific time, at which exact moment one of his airline's inaugural flights passes overhead. It will be broadcast, it will be photographed, and it will announce his new company to the world in the most dramatic way possible. Vaughn doesn't especially care that this schedule creates a non-negotiable constraint for a mountain that doesn't honor non-negotiable constraints. The night before the ascent begins, Vaughn throws a celebration at base camp. Everyone is drinking and relaxed and optimistic. Then a man walks through the group and asks directly for Elliot Vaughn. His name is Montgomery Wick, older, quiet, the kind of quiet that has had years to become very dense. And he has been to the summit of K2 before. He knows every mood the mountain cycles through. He asks Vaughn what his plan is if the weather turns during the ascent. Vaughn tells him with complete confidence that his meteorological team has cleared the next 2 months, that they have the best forecasting equipment available, and that the data shows no cause for concern. Wick tells him, without any drama, that no equipment reads K2 correctly, and that the mountain will do what it decides to do, regardless of what any forecast says. Vaughn receives this as an annoyance from someone who is not on his payroll and dismisses him. Wick looks at him one more time and then walks out of the celebration. He goes directly to his tent, shaves, gathers the minimum he needs, and in the darkness and silence of the base camp night, he starts climbing K2 alone. He has his own reasons for being on this mountain that have nothing to do with any expedition. Elliot Vaughn's 5-member team begins its ascent the following morning. The mood is focused and driven. They move well through the lower sections and maintain a good pace as they gain altitude. By the time they reach 26,000 feet, the point above which the air is too thin to sustain the body without supplemental oxygen, a radio message comes up from base camp. A major storm system is moving toward the mountain from the south, moving fast, and it is significant. Tom McLaren's read of the situation is immediate and professional. This is life-threatening information, and they need to turn around now, at this moment, before the window closes. They have enough time to descend safely if they start immediately. Elliot Vaughn says no. He says they are 1 hour from their intermediate target. He says storms change direction. He says the radio reports are never as bad as they sound. He says they are not turning around. Tom McLaren and Annie both know that Vaughn's assessment is wrong in a way that will cost lives. But his money is behind every piece of equipment they're wearing, every camp they've established, every step of this operation, and his authority on this expedition has been structured to be final. They keep climbing. At base camp, Peter watches through binoculars and hears the storm traffic on the radio. He tries to reach Tom by radio, and when he gets through, he tells him what the southward data is showing. This isn't a system that's going to veer away. Vaughn talks over him at every transmission and convinces Tom to disregard the warning and keep moving. Peter lowers the binoculars and watches the cloud mass building on the horizon behind K2. The storm arrives without any further warning period. It comes in as a full whiteout. Wind-driven snow so dense that visibility drops to a few feet, temperature dropping with the speed that high-altitude storms can achieve. The 5 climbers are fighting for ground when the snow beneath Annie's feet gives way. She drops into a crevasse, a deep, narrow gap between 2 rock sections, and the rope connecting the team pulls the others toward the edge. The rope catches on a sharp rock projection as Annie swings below the surface, and the rock cuts through the line cleanly. She falls to the bottom of the crevasse, which is deep enough to swallow her completely. She's hurt, but alive. The 4 remaining climbers are isolated on the surface above the crevasse when an avalanche, triggered by the storm's structural impact on the mountain, sweeps across their section of the face. 2 of the team don't survive the avalanche. 3 people are now in the crevasse. Annie, who fell in before the avalanche, Elliot Vaughn, who went in trying to find shelter, and Tom McLaren, who was swept in by the force of the snow. The opening of the crevasse is completely buried under the fresh avalanche deposit. They have no radio signal capable of reaching the surface. Whatever air they have is what was trapped in the crevasse when it sealed. Above the surface, base camp cannot make contact. The radio is dead. Peter is on the radio constantly and getting nothing back. Then a faint signal comes through. Not radio, but Morse code. Tapping. The kind of signal that can travel through ice and rock in a way that conventional radio cannot. Annie knows Morse code. Peter knows Morse code. They worked it out from their father when they were children. The signal from inside the crevasse confirms Annie is alive. It also tells Peter that there are 3 alive, that the position is sealed, and that the oxygen situation is deteriorating. The specialists at base camp put the survival window at 36 hours, and given the altitude and the degree of the seal, that estimate might be optimistic. Peter has to get up the mountain. The problem is not the mountain. The problem is getting through the quantity of densely packed snow that now sits above the crevasse. The only practical solution is nitroglycerin. Shaped charges placed carefully can open ice without destroying the cavity beneath, but nitroglycerin is profoundly unstable. Any physical shock, any sharp movement, any direct sunlight, and it detonates on its own. Carrying it up K2 in these conditions, on slopes that demand constant physical effort under extreme cold, is the kind of operation that most professionals would refuse. Elliot Vaughn's company offers 5 million rupees to any climber willing to join the mission. The money assembles a small team: Malcolm and Cyril Bench, brothers and experienced high-altitude climbers; Skip Taylor, a veteran of several Himalayan expeditions; Frank Williams, known in the climbing community as Chainsaw for reasons that become clear when he's working fast in the mountains; and a woman named Monique Aubertine, who has her own history on K2 and who evaluates risk with the directness of someone who has survived things that should have killed her. The universal advice from everyone at base camp is the same: Peter needs Montgomery Wick. Wick is already up there alone, and he has done more at altitude on this specific mountain than anyone currently gathered at base camp. Without him, operational knowledge of the mountain above them is incomplete in ways that will cost lives. Peter and the team fly by helicopter to where Wick has set a camp partway up the mountain. Wick hears them come in and doesn't look particularly pleased. Peter asks for his help and Wick declines. Not rudely, but with a finality that suggests he's thought about this kind of request before and arrived at the same answer. He says clearly that going up K2 in the current post-storm conditions is not a rescue mission. It's a body collection exercise, and he won't lead anyone to their deaths for the sake of a gesture. Peter tells him he climbed with Royce Garrett. He tells Wick that his father knew Wick, that Royce had mentioned Wick by name, that the two of them had been on a major climb together years before Monument Valley. This is a door Peter didn't know would open anything, and he is surprised when it does. Something in Wick's expression changes. He looks out at the mountain for a long moment and then looks back at Peter and says, "I'll go, but this is a rescue, not a performance. Every decision on this mountain gets made by me, and that doesn't change regardless of who's paying for anything." Inside the sealed crevasse, every hour that passes reduces the margin for survival. The temperature is so low that movement produces pain rather than warmth. Tom McLaren's breathing is becoming labored. The high altitude combined with a respiratory condition he has managed for years is now becoming critical. There is a drug, dexamethasone, that can support his breathing function. Each person trapped in the crevasse has a limited supply of their own. Elliot Vaughn has enough for himself and does not intend to share it. This is not a decision he makes in the heat of panic. It is calculated. Tom dies sooner. Tom's supply of medication becomes available to Vaughn. The arithmetic of his survival points in a specific direction, and he follows it without apology. Annie sees what Vaughn is doing, understands it, and acts before she can think herself out of it. She slips one of her own dexamethasone injections to Tom while Vaughn isn't watching. When Vaughn discovers this, he erupts, not from any concern about Annie's well-being, but because the medication he was planning to acquire has now been administered to someone else. He says things to Annie in that dark crevasse that establish his character beyond any further ambiguity. Above them, the rescue team is climbing with the nitroglycerin divided between two groups, each charge carried with a degree of care that slows everything down. Altitude at this level degrades coordination, reaction time, and judgment, exactly the combination you cannot afford when carrying unstable explosives. One canister develops a hairline crack, and the timing of the disaster cannot be controlled. The first rays of sunlight hit that container, and the explosion it produces is enormous. The shockwave rolls across the mountain face, and two climbers from the rescue group, Skip Taylor and Chainsaw Williams, are gone in the blast. The mountain shakes and dislodges sections of snow and ice in the force of it. When the debris from the blast clears, Wick is standing on a changed section of slope. The explosion has moved old ice that hadn't been disturbed in years. He is looking at something in the newly exposed snow. He moves toward it involuntarily. It is a hand, frozen in the snow, preserved by the cold, positioned naturally as though the person simply stopped moving there. He knows whose hand it is before he can see anything else. He has been looking for this for 4 years. His wife, she was a mountain guide, one of the finest in this region, who disappeared during a massive storm on K2 4 years earlier. Wick had gone up alone trying to find her and had returned with 3 other survivors, but without her. He had searched in the years since, returning to the mountain periodically, never finding anything. The cold has kept her perfectly. She is here. She was here the whole time. He puts it in the locket he wears around his neck. He sits with her for a moment in complete silence. Peter finds him there and finds near the body a small medical kit that had been buried with the snow that covered her. He opens it. It takes him a moment to understand what he is reading, and then he shows it to Wick. The contents of that kit are specific. Dexamethasone, measured out in a way that makes a clear statement. The kit belonged to Wick's wife. The medication she had with her when she died has been partially removed. Not used, removed. Taken by someone who was with her in those last hours and chose his own survival over hers. Someone who knew this medication existed, took what he needed, and left. Elliot Vaughn was on this mountain 4 years ago. He was in the same storm. He was one of the survivors. This is not a coincidence that requires any further analysis. Wick closes the medical kit. He looks up toward the section of mountain above where Annie and Vaughn are buried. He begins climbing. The rescue team reaches the crevasse location. They calculate the placement for the final nitroglycerin charge with the precision that only half the team and all the remaining explosives can provide at this point. Wick and Peter together set the charge at the correct position. The blast is controlled and exact. It opens the top of the crevasse without collapsing the walls. Light and air come down into the cavity where Annie and Tom have been waiting. Peter goes in on a line. He finds Annie, diminished, white with cold, but alive and conscious. He gets a harness around her immediately, and she begins to go up. He finds Tom, still alive, breathing shallowly, the dexamethasone having bought him the hours he needed. Tom goes up on the line next. Wick is at the lip of the crevasse when he comes face to face with Elliot Vaughn. The moment is without theatrics. Wick simply looks at the man who left his wife to die in the snow 4 years ago and who has just spent 2 days in a sealed cave demonstrating, in miniature, exactly the kind of person he is. Wick has a rope. He has the opportunity to do nothing and allow a natural outcome on this specific piece of mountain in this specific situation. He puts the rope around Vaughn anyway. He can live with himself because he gave the man his life back. What the law does with the information in that medical kit is a separate problem for another place. Then the section of mountain they are standing on destabilizes without warning. The blast, the existing fracture patterns in the ice, the accumulated stress of everything the storm left behind, it gives way. The configuration is instantly familiar to Peter. Wick, Vaughn, and Annie all on the rope below him. Peter hanging onto the rock face above, the weight building on the anchor just as it did at Monument Valley, just as it did with Royce. The piton is starting to pull out of the rock. Wick looks up at Peter. His face has no panic in it. He looks around at the faces on the rope. He has the same arithmetic that Royce Garrett had 3 years ago and reaches the same conclusion. He takes the knife from his belt. Peter understands what is about to happen and shouts the same plea he heard himself give his father, only in reverse, from the other end of the rope, from the end that stays. Wick cuts the line below him. He and Elliot Vaughn fall together into the dark of the crevasse below. The anchor holds. Peter pulls Annie up the remaining distance to solid ground. Annie can barely stand, but she doesn't need to. She leans against her brother and stays there. They are both here. Their father isn't, and Wick isn't, and the people from the rescue team aren't. And the morning holds all of that. At the same time, it holds the fact that Annie's arms are around Peter, and she is saying his name. She tells him that if their father could have seen what Peter just did, Royce Garrett would have been proud of him without qualification. Peter doesn't say anything. He doesn't need to. In the days after the rescue, as they prepare to return from base camp, Peter builds a small cairn from the stones on the mountain, a simple marker for each person who died during the mission. He sets a stone for each name. The marker doesn't transform anything or resolve anything. Some things that break don't reassemble, but some things that are lost get found on the slope of a mountain in the cold light of a morning that almost didn't come. And the ones left standing at the cairn get to carry both. And